Hello, welcome back to Malicious Compliant Stories. We have 3 stories for you today. Items needed for my satanic ritual. Don't want me to sit there? Okay, I'll move. And I don't want him to do it. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Alright, let's get started. Our first story. Items needed for my satanic ritual. Some contexts: my mom left my dad when I was 2 because he was an abusive alcoholic. A year later, she met a woman at work who was also a single mother, and they became involved in a romantic relationship. Soon, we all moved in together. Fast forward about 13 years. When I was about 16, I was going through the typical angsty teen phase. I was into bands like Marilyn Manson and Nin, wore all black, was fascinated with serial killers, which, oddly enough, has become mainstream these days, spent a lot of time in my room, etc., but was generally a good kid. I never got in trouble at school, save for the occasional letter home about me talking too much in class. I didn't smoke, do drugs, or belong to a gang, all of which were common where I grew up. Around this time, my mother's partner's daughter was married with children, and we were all living in the same house. Before I continue, I want to make it clear that I have zero problem with my mom being in a relationship with a woman. I'm happy that she found someone who makes her happy. But at the time, I felt like it was us versus them. They liked to tease my mom a lot because she was really short and overweight, and I didn't like that. I also felt a bit of coldness coming from them, like anything I asked of them was a huge inconvenience. Furthermore, they were very superstitious and took my interest in dark material pretty seriously, and sometimes I could overhear them talking about me. As an only child, I tended to keep to myself and wrote a lot in my journal. In one of my essays, I just went off about how I felt about our living situation. It was pretty rough, but I would have never said any of it to them directly. Really, it was just me venting to myself. In retrospect, I think a lot of my feelings were just me trying to navigate not having a dad. One day, when I came home from school, my mom asked to talk to me in her room. She had my journal in her hand and opened it to the entry where I was talking SHT about everyone. Apparently, her partner had gone into my room, looked for my journal, and begun to read it. Obviously, they were pretty mad, but I explained that I was just venting, and why was she going through my things in the first place? Her response was, "Well, you left it on your desk. Don't leave it out if you don't want anyone to read it." Alright then. Maybe I will print it out because I do want you to read it. As I mentioned earlier, I was your typical 90s goth kid, the kind you look back on and cringe at. But they saw it as a sign that I was seriously into some legitimate occult, dark witchcraft shite. I thought this was hilarious and decided to play on it. I also wanted to find out if they were still reading my journal, so I decided to smoke them out. So, I wrote an entry titled "Items Needed for My Satanic Ritual." I made the list as ridiculous as possible so that it would be that much sweeter if they took it seriously. It had stuff like chicken's feet, the fat, unbaptized babies, a black cloak, a sword, and finally, a lock of each of their hair. Then I left it open on my desk for someone to find. Sure enough, a day later, my mom calls me into her room after I get back from school, journal in hand, and asks me, "What is this?" I start laughing hysterically. I explained that I wanted to know if they were still reading my journal, and obviously my plan worked because here we are. I asked, "Do you really think this is real? Unbaptized baby fat, really?" They were not as amused as I was. This pretty much ruined our relationship for many years to come. But as they say, time heals all, and we are all now on good terms, but sometimes I think about the time I convinced my entire family that I was going to put a satanic curse on them. TDLR, parents found and read my journal, where I was talking shite about them. I took revenge by convincing them I was going to place a satanic curse on all of them. Our next story. Don't want me to sit there? Okay, I'll move. This could also probably go under petty revenge, but I thought it fit better here. We only have 3 tables in the break room where I usually sit and eat. It isn't a lot of space, but people are usually fine sitting next to strangers, and there's an unspoken first come, first serve rule for space. Anyway, it was lunchtime, and I went to sit at a table as per usual, and there was lots of space at the center one. Bingo. But as I went to put my stuff down at the end, out of the way, 3 or 4 people standing around the middle of the table immediately shooed me away and told me I couldn't sit there because they were saving it for their friends. So, I took 2 steps and plopped my bag down on their other side, near the wall and very much in the way. I got out my lunch and headphones and proceeded to enjoy my mini pizza bagels even as the table filled up around me with their friend group. I got some stares, but I really didn't care, and no one was brave enough to ask me to move again, even though I was splitting them up and they had to squish in really tight on either side of me. I didn't get up until I was good and ready, and the entire hour went by. Heady, I know, but with the already limited space, you just can't do that, and the alternative would have been sitting outside in the snow on a nearby bench without a proper coat. TLDR, some table hogs told me to move, so I sat in the way and split them up. And our last story. I don't want him to do it. I work the window and take orders at Mendy's. Every day is another treasure box of joy and despair, ready to be opened. Today this box popped open like a snake-shaped insult in a can. I take orders, I make drinks, I collect on occasion, and if I'm really on top of my game, I'll assemble the chilies, with gloves, of course. Today I decided to assemble the 3 chilies ready to go out to the customer pulling up to the window. As the window opened, they saw me pouring their chili and yelled, "I don't want those. I don't want him to do it." My manager was collecting and told them to hold on a moment. I have no idea why they were bugging. My manager echoed this sentiment. I took the chili I already poured and poured it back into the pot from whence it came, pouring it slowly from high up, then handed the empty chili cups to my ungloved manager, who did his very best to scoop the exact same chili into those 3 cups. The best part is that while my manager was scooping away, I had to collect, meaning I was now 10 feet closer to them, handing them their food directly, and speaking to them directly. They clearly did not like this. They trumped through the rest of the transactions, looking at their chili like it was radioactive. I was nice as pie to them and enjoyed that moment of pettiness a little too much as they hobbled off into the sunset in their Mercury tracers. To this day, I don't know what their problem was with me. Well, that's all for this video. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.